It's cheaper than therapy.
Yep. All right, we're here. Episode 1 of Money, Marriage, and Magic. We have to drink.
Yeah.
Sorry. And what else do we have to do? Look in the eye?
Look each other in the eye.
Anybody else never cheers and look in each other in the eye?
So many stories.
All right, this is the first episode, you guys. Welcome. Thank you for joining us right now. This is Money, Marriage, Magic. This is our first episode of our podcast, video podcast, which we will be talking, venting, therapy sessioning on each other of everything to do with money, marriage, and magic.
Yes.
How does that sound?
Magically weird.
I agree, and that's why we're married.
Yeah. I'm kind of shaking right now.
Oh, and why is that?
I don't know. This feels like such a...
No one's here watching yet.
I know.
It's just me and you.
I know, but this has been in the process forever. Yes, we're here, and maybe we should just kind of say who we are.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you. What's your name?
My name's Zack Gitler. I'm one half of
the Gitlers.
The Gitlers,
I'm
and
Jess.
you are?
I'm Jess Gitler. Jessica Gitler. That's me.
We're gonna get Ari on here soon. You'll meet her at one of the podcasts in the near future.
We have a little one. She's 5. She's fabulous. She's in bed. Hopefully.
Yes. We're not going to tell you what time it is. We're not going to tell you what day it is because as time goes on with our future podcasts, we're going to kick ourselves in the butt like, hey, happy Halloween. But we didn't release it for a month after. So it's nighttime, and that's all we'll let you know
it's
on this.
It's nighttime. We are at our home.
Yes.
And
I have PJs on below this, a nice shirt on top.
He literally does.
The benefits
am I supposed to look there or am I supposed to look at you?
No, you look at me.
Okay, but you keep looking there.
Oh, I do both.
Oh, because you're fancy.
No,
like
I have no idea. Don't worry about it.
All right,
you just relax.
Let's talk about your fancy.
Cheers.
Let's talk about your fancy, Mr. Gitler.
What's my fancy?
I love you. Well, you got lots of fancy.
Part of my fancy is wanting to do this podcast for a long time. I feel like having conversations with your significant other is very important. Communication is very important. We agree on that. So that's what kind of like brought us to do this podcast, I think. That was the key. It's been a long time running, like you said.
So Zack actually had a podcast with a friend.
Yes.
And in all honesty, I used to be against it a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because I felt like it like sucked up all his time, and he wasn't like, that time could have been involvement in family time, and I was selfish. I'm not going to lie. I was super
Nothing wrong with being selfish. Nothing wrong.
Then one day I was on the podcast and I was like, whoa, this is therapy. Like legit, no word of a lie, complete, utter therapy. And I was like, hey, wait, let's do this together, you and I.
And it took how long?
So this is actually our second go round.
Yes.
Of this.
I checked the file. It was March 7th, 2019.
No.
Almost a year.
I don't even believe that.
I have it in my computer. Almost a year. We filmed, or we recorded the first one.
For real?
Which was awesome. Yeah, March 7th.
Yeah. No.
March 7th.
I'm blown away.
Hey, swear on our marriage.
Wow. Okay.
Something you'll hear later on in days if you never need to pick a word that like you can't lie against. There you go. Swear on our marriage.
So this is our second go round. We tried to do this and we kind of did it, but
we did it. We recorded it. We had a good time. We just hung out, lit some candles, and had a good conversation for like 3 hours, you know?
And literally, you guys, we spent forever trying to figure out the name. And we went back and forth for a while. I wanted to call it Cheaper Than Therapy because it is legitimately. And that's what hooked me on it, I think, at first, when I was like...
Because you did one.
With you guys, I was like, this is amazing. And then we sat there and talked. And I think that's why we couldn't use those first... Maybe one day we'll, like, archive them and we'll, like, pull them out of the vault and bring them out, like, years from now. Hopefully we're still doing this years from now. But could you imagine if we pulled them out of the vault and we're like, this is where we first started. I was crying. It was cheaper than therapy.
It's crazy. And as you've seen from the intro you just saw, the very tagline in there is, it's cheaper than therapy. So I gave her that. But, the basis of this podcast is we're selfish. It's mainly for me and Jess to have conversations. But we know so many people out there that live through the same things that we do, go through the same troubles, and we feel like it could benefit you guys. So that's why we're also recording it for you guys to see and hear. And also as time goes on, any questions, anything you guys ever want to leave in comments. private message us. We're always here to help because this is one helping us, so we want to help everybody out there watching. So I mean, to start this off, I mean, to give a basis of like who we are as two people, how we met. I feel like that's to build that groundwork for you guys. So I'm gonna start with Jess. Jess, where are you from?
I'm from Canada.
Born and raised in Canada.
Born and raised in Canada. I've been living here now. Oh my goodness. It's 11 years. You will hear me say out. You will hear me say about. You will hear me say weird terms like I wear a toque, not a beanie. I wear runners, not tennies. You'll hear these weird things. I'm sorry if you're from Canada. You totally know what I'm talking about. But yeah, born and raised Canadian, went on vacation for a girlfriend's wedding. Last minute, let me add. Last minute. I wasn't supposed to go on this vacation. Fate, whatever you want to call it. Went on the vacation to Puerto Vallarta and
then she met me.
This right here.
Someone introduced us at a bar, excuse me, in an all-inclusive resort. Drinks are flowing. Fun times having. And some guy's like, hey, man. Tap me on my shoulder.
I think it was a couple. I feel like from what I remember was a couple that I'd met and you'd met. Or maybe this is a story I've concocted in my mind.
You gotta be careful. When you include all-inclusive resort with, I think I remember, everything goes out the door. Everybody's like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But someone introduced us to each other at a bar, and we had like 3 or 4 days left, I think.
Yeah, I think it was like 3.
Yeah, 3 days left.
And one of those days was the wedding, so I was gone the whole day.
Yeah, but we met up after, I think. Mm-hmm. And I was there with my mom and my sister and her husband. I'm just going to call it Tone husband.
Sure.
And again, I wasn't supposed to go either. I kind of just last minute was like, found an amazing deal. I was like, Mom, can I share a room with you? Because I don't want my own room at all-inclusive resort.
No, this is a whole nother.
Not that I didn't want my own room, but it's to be like, wait, it's less expensive to stay with I'll stay with my mom. I'll stay with my mom, which is very weird for me back then to do that.
No, why not? She's your mom.
Exactly.
She birthed you.
But we literally bumped heads at an all-inclusive resort and spent the next 3 days literally every second we could with each other, night, day, and just hung out.
It was wild because I remember it was a whirlwind. And I remember when Zach left and I looked at my girlfriends and I was like, I'm going to marry that man. And they were like, yeah, you and him and that tequila bottle, you guys are going to have a great marriage. Well, I was like...
But it just goes to show, in 3 days.
Yeah,
in 3 days, with previous relationships and everything's gone through, like, bad
I mean, it
good.
was pretty wild. Like, it was wilder than wild,
Explain wild. You got to elaborate.
I just mean, like, I was there... I can't even, like, it was so
like to
crazy.
Storybook to like,
to Storybook.
When I hear wild,
like,
I think all-inclusive resort.
No.
It
wasn't like Girls Gone Wild, like taking off all my clothes. Like, I mean, we did get kicked out of a pool. We did get kicked out of a pool. Not just us. There were other people involved.
We were doing backflips off of champagne glasses in the pool.
It was wild in the fact that, Storybook. Like, whenever I tell people the story, they're like, you're kidding me. And I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, there's no word of a lie about the story.
It sounds too good to be true to me. The more and more we've always told people, and they're like, they have these wows looks in their eyes. But it literally seems normal day-to-day life with us now. And it's almost more so as practice and everything you do, I think in marriage or whatever you do becomes normal. It becomes easier. It becomes more at your grasp to have happen. It's not a pipe dream. It's not a storybook to be written. It's like, this could happen. And I think the more you wrap your brain around that thing, it changes a lot in your day-to-day thinking.
Yeah.
It does. So we met in Mexico 11 years ago. And within April to October, traveled back and forth. Canada, she came here. Many more stories involved there of just like crazy stuff that happened on those trips, from Vegas, winning a ton of money. She was supposed to go home. We said no. I said no. Extend your trip, drive back to me, and see where I live in San Diego. And
that
she
was
did.
The game changer.
I drove her up and down the coast in San Diego, and I was like, look, this is where I live now, and I'm from Minnesota, so like I appreciate every day I live in Minnesota or in San Diego. So I was like, you got to see this. And yeah, that definitely, I think, would lock anybody in from wanting to move here.
I mean, it was easy for me. I wanted to marry Zach the day when he left. This like is super imprinted in my brain. When he left Puerto Vallarta, he had to leave before me. His mom left first. He walked his mom out of the resort. I'm going to cry in the first episode. Holy shit. He walked his mom and like was pulling her luggage, and like I watched him like hug her and cry and like get teary-eyed and say goodbye, and I was like, oh, Yep. I'm in. Where do I sign? Like, I'm in love with this man. And anyways, so I went back I was living in Calgary, Alberta at the time. I went back to Calgary. You came back here to San Diego. And there was a slight disconnect for a while.
Oh, yeah. I had someone I was kind of involved. I mean, everybody out there has had a girlfriend or a boyfriend and been like in and out, up and down. It's going to work. It's not going to work. And that's what I had. I mean, you had a similar situation. And I think everybody does until you meet the right one.
Sure.
So what we always try to establish to a lot of people is the right one is out there. If you're not, I'd say realistically 85-90% happy.
I mean, if you're out there listening right now and you're like, wow, these two, like, I'm never going to listen again. They've got this fairy tale thing. Listen, we'd been through
we put in our work.
much before our fairy tale came along. And I think everybody has a fairy tale. You just have to be open-minded to it.
And never settle. I mean, we're big. Our world changed when we met each other.
Oh,
and
God.
As it's grown for 10 years, our mindset, our outlook on life, of everything has just quadrupled down on just anything's possible.
Anything. But you got to work for it.
You do got to work for it. Oh, yeah, 100% you got to work for it.
Like beyond work for it.
Yeah. So in between that time from April to October, back and forth travels, and then eventually we had this conversation after I came back in town.
Zach said, I'm never, ever moving back to winter.
No.
And I was
Why
like,
would you?
Okay. My options are try to move to the United States of America as a Canadian, because you can't, like, if you know the way the world works, you can't just pack up your bags, say, oh, I'm going to go live and work in the United States. It doesn't work like that. So there were some technicalities about all that.
And I knew that, and I did some research prior, because I knew, I mean, if someone's going to move somewhere and uproot to a different country, even though it's next door, you know, you're going to marry that person. Yeah. I think we were old enough at that time.
So you knew at that point.
Yes. We knew when we met
each
other.
But you never really told me.
Yeah, but I'm a big believer too. If I didn't, I apologize. But actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
So
no,
actions speak louder than words.
I knew what I knew, and it didn't matter what anybody else knew. I didn't care what you knew. I knew what I knew.
True. And after the talk, I was like, I'm not moving to the cold. I'm from Minnesota. Why would I? I've spent very hard work to make it in San Diego, and I wasn't even making it. I was just happy-ish. You know,
you were on the up and up to.
I knew possibilities were upon me, and I didn't want to figure that out in cold weather. So I was like, you should move here.
Yeah.
And even then, we never spoke about being married.
No.
I don't remember.
We didn't, until
you got here.
We knew that was kind of where things were potentially
I think we both knew.
It was like an unsaid thing. But
Another thing, when two people connect, you kind of just know. You could look at each other like, I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we were. But we never spoke about getting married until, a week or 2 weeks into living here?
It was crazy. So I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked. And then I saved up a whole pile of money. I sold everything that I owned that I could just buy again. And I quit my job and I put everything else in my car and I drove. I got in my car. Zach met me in Seattle. There's a whole nother story about crossing the border. That's for another time. And
no, you can tell that.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, just do the quick version.
Okay. So I went across the border and they pulled me aside and they're like, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going down to the States to visit a friend. I'm allowed to visit for 6 months. At that time, this is 11 years ago. I don't need a visa for that much time. I can go. I know my rights, so on and so forth. And they were like, why do you have so much stuff in your car? And I was like, well, I'm traveling. I'm going to travel for the next year. So I have what I own in my car.
What kind of car was it?
It was a Dodge Caliber.
Yeah, it looked like a Subaru Outback.
Dark gray. It was gunmetal gray.
Full of stuff.
They were full. Okay?
Gunmetal gray. Look at you, car salesman.
Oh, gosh. No, I remember.
It's not just gray.
I remember buying this car very clearly.
Yeah, I bet
it was like a freedom
gray.
moment in my life, buying that car. No power windows, no power, no air conditioning, no nothing. That was a very special car in my life. Anyways, so I get there and they're giving me this hassle and the runaround. They're like, why do you have $10,000 cash in your backpack? And I was like, I'm a server. I've always worked in the restaurant industry. That is my background. That is what I've always done. I'm like, I've saved all my money because I want to have cash. And they were like, oh, they gave me a hard time. They were like, no, we don't believe you. We're going to send you back. You're going to have to go. And it was just a nightmare.
And I was waiting on the other side of the border because I flew into Seattle waiting, and I'm just like, man, where is she? And I don't even know what the phone situation was.
No, I don't
then.
even think I could call you. Like, I don't even think I had like a plan to call you at that point because I still had a Canadian
Motorola
plan.
Razr, man.
Yeah, so did I. Had a pink one.
All
oh
right.
my gosh,
I couldn't do much with that thing. Okay.
So, anyways, this guy was giving me the runaround, and I said, "Listen," I remember saying to him, I was like, do you have sisters? Do you have a mom? I'm like, have they ever overpacked for a trip? Like, I was at the point of like, I'm not going to get to go. What's going to happen? Like, I was like, save yourself. So I like was like being aggressive, and I ended up, this woman was listening, and it happened to be his superior. And she was like, yeah. She like talked to me. And she's like, all right, listen. She's like, we're going to let you go across the border. She's like, but don't let this be a mistake. And that like point in time, I was like, I remember
so she
getting.
Knew.
Oh, it was crazy. She
knew.
Like,
I mean,
it's like she knew. She could see the love
How many
in
people
my
have gone
eyes.
across the border?
Like she could see this. Like I am leaving, and I am leaving the country that I belong to, even though it's a sister country and it's super safe and everything. But I'm like, I'm leaving for a man. Like, she for sure knew. And so I remember like getting back in my car, putting my keys in, turning the ignition, and like literally almost pooping my pants. Like I was like, oh my gosh, they probably have a bug in here. Like they're probably listening to me. Like they're going to hear me, and I couldn't call you. And then I did call you, and I was like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to be late, but I'm going to be there.
Yeah, we met at a hotel. Like I was in a
picked
parking
you up.
lot.
I picked you up outside of the airport.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, then we pulled over at a hotel parking lot because you were freaking out.
I was freaking out, losing my mind. I picked you up at the airport, I'm pretty sure, or just like at the...
I always remember the hotel because I'm like, we pulled in a parking lot because you're like, I just need a moment to get out and breathe.
Oh, it was... I thought like they were chasing me. Like I thought it was in a movie.
Then Jack Bauer showed up. It was weird. Yeah, and then we had a 24-hour drive ahead of us, and we were like, we're just going to drive straight through. And we kind of drove straight through. Yeah. And
we stopped in San Francisco and saw Max.
Yeah, but remember the funny story about...
Oh, gosh. That was just lame.
Oh, no, we took a detour because we only had a map. We didn't have a smartphone.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's take this shortcut. I'm like, God dang it. We had to backtrack it like another hour, and then we got too tired, and we're like, you know what? I don't know where we are right now. We should just pull over and sleep. She slept in the front seat. I crawled in the back.
There was
the crevice
so much stuff
on
in
all
my
the boxes
hatchback
and
car.
slept on all of them. Oh. The craziest thing, though, we woke up the next morning, called my buddy Max, and he was like, dude, you're like 45 minutes away from me. And we sat there like, oh my God, we could have drove to a bed. Anyway, got to his house, slept in a bed, was great. And that was the first kind of like day together.
Yeah.
Was that. We trooped it all the way there. Car. Yeah, it was insane. And that was in April.
No,
October. Sorry, October.
So then we got back like early October, and like I think it was like the 1st of October we got back. 23 days later we got married at the courthouse.
Yep. The 22nd day we were walking on the beach, and we literally never had really spoken about getting married ever.
No,
never.
I don't think like. I think like we telepathically told each other.
Or we talked about things to do with it maybe, but we're never like, well, that has to do with getting married. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we were walking on the beach, and we were like, let's do it. You know, after a conversation, like, yeah, let's do it. And then she was like, you got to ask my dad.
I was like, you better call my dad.
I was like, okay, sure.
If you don't call my dad,
I remember that.
This could start off real bad. And don't get me wrong, my parents had already met Zach. He'd been to Canada. They loved him. They wished us all the best. Nobody, the weird thing is like, not even a friend, not even my
because everybody
adult
knew.
Parents were like, are you sure? Are you sure you're going to move to Sandy? Are you sure?
It would have been the same way on my end too. It's because everybody knew our exes.
Nobody questioned me. It was so wild. I remember driving at one point being like, why is nobody trying to stop me? Like what's happening here?
It's because everybody knew our exes and knew the shit we went through.
I don't think so. I think they knew how they saw us
together.
Met you, yes, they did.
Well, Liz and my mom.
Liz, your mom. I went
really.
to Ben's wedding.
True. Never mind.
I met your whole family.
Yeah,
Where were you?
I forgot in between time. I forgot about in between. How many trips did we have in between?
Okay, so
first to you.
First I came to you.
Oh, for Vegas.
Yep. Then you came to me for like a month.
Calgary to Kelowna.
Yeah.
That same trip.
Then I went to Minneapolis.
And
then you came back for another month.
That's April to October. We had 4 trips. And 2 of those trips were like...
2 of those were like a month long.
A month long, yeah.
Each.
I lived in Canada for a month.
Yeah, you did.
Illegally, but legally. I don't know.
Yeah, it was so crazy.
And the next day after we had the conversation on the beach, went to the courthouse, brought my little bro, and he was the witness, and we got married. And then...
Oh my gosh, if I could go back.
We have it on tape. I was wearing khaki pants and a oversized shirt.
I wore black pants.
Oh, you were
And
like a lawyer receptionist.
Like, what was I
Is that where your fashion started?
I don't even know.
Oh, that's all you brought.
My voice just hit some sort of weird, high, icky note there because that was so bad. Like, if I think back,
and you talk smack about my outfits, khaki shorts and a beater.
I don't even know. I didn't know what to wear.
And you wore. I work at a lawyer office.
So let's just put it this way: my dream wedding was not getting married at the courthouse in San Marcos. Okay. Let's just put it that way.
True. But then
we did get.
Yes,
I did.
yes.
We did.
Yeah, and after that, day happened. We, legally got married, which, going into that, we have our views on that.
It was a pretty cool day, though.
It was legit. Kind of, I think, how we see marriage to a certain extent is like
just a piece of paper.
It's a piece of paper. Yeah, I mean that's how we kind of see it. Another thing of how we come believe in the same things. And then a year later, because we got married in San Diego at the courthouse on a Thursday, the next year our anniversary would be on a Friday.
Do you remember driving? We were driving somewhere, and I was like, "Wouldn't it be cool?"
Oh, the next year.
If I'm like. Oh, yeah. I'm like, this was fun and all.
Yeah, we drove up the coast.
I'm glad we're legal because let's be honest, we loved each other. We knew we were going to get married. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm sure you're already thinking about it. You're like, oh, well, just needed a green card. Like, I didn't need a green card, but it was inevitable. I had to get a green card. Zach and I were going to get married. So speeding up that process, nobody turned.
Yeah, we talked about that out loud.
But it was just like we knew life steps. Like that's what was happening.
There had to have been a time, like conversation wise on the phone or prior to moving, of just like, well, if you move, we're gonna get married. I think we just kind of knew, like you said, we just kind of knew.
Well, there weren't that many options. So I worked in the restaurant industry. We knew our options. We knew our options. So we knew where it was going, how it was going, and how we were going to do things. But it was clear. Mm-hmm. It was crystal clear. Mm-hmm. Pardon me, what we were doing and how we were doing it, and all that kind of jazz. So getting married was a no-brainer.
I mean, getting married is the easy part.
My dad saying that, but it was a no-brainer. It was like, I love you, you love me. Like, we're doing this.
And as you find, getting married is the easy part.
Yeah.
It's the work, the actions, the commitment after that. And that's honestly like coming back and bringing it full circle back into it. That's why we feel like, this podcast, this video show is very important because we've got 11 years into it, 11, strong, getting to know each other years into it. And there's so many elements that we feel that are like important to acknowledge, to focus on. And in ours, like money, marriage, magic is the reason why we call it, is because those three categories kind of sums up like a life. And if you can master or work or practice at all three, I feel like you have a good recipe for a good life.
Absolutely.
So like in the future, that's what we want to bring to you guys. We're going to bring different categories, like I think next one or ones that come, it might just be revolved around money. Next one might be revolved around magic or marriage. Magic.
And let's just say what magic is.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how do you categorize magic?
What's the definition of magic? And when we were trying to find another word to describe the podcast and what we wanted to talk about and the things that we thought were important, magic just takes all the other things, those special moments between having children, between traveling, between, all the good feeling, warm fuzzies in life. That's the magic. But you know what? There's magic in hardship too. Even in the things that happen that are bad sometimes, there's magical things that come out of that. So magic isn't always just a good thing. It can be a bad, sad thing too that turns around and becomes something. Everything is a teaching and learning lesson. Zach has taught me that through and through, and I firmly believe it. And so magic just kind of takes it all in and puts it in that little ball.
It's a special sauce. It's a special ingredient, and there's not just one to every single recipe. Yeah. So you got to, find out what that is. So money, marriage, magic is what we're going to bring into you in the future episodes. So I think we're going to end it right there.
We may not have finished that whole story, but we can save it for another time.
Yes. We'll save it. There's so many
stories.
We could talk for days about our stories, but we always want to, factor around why are we really doing this? I mean, we can, again, as we said, it's therapy for us. It's very nice to sit back, have a glass of wine, and just chit chat and shoot the shit. But we want to bring value to you guys, our listeners, and we appreciate you guys for listening to us. So again, any comments you guys have, anything, the world of
questions, comments, concerns. Anything. We're very open. We're super willing to listen And we want to take it all in.
Yes.
This is an adventure for us.
Yes, so we would like you guys to take the adventure with us.
Yes, you get to go on this adventure with us, which is wild.
So the story you just heard.
And magical.
We want to make the new stories with you. So on that, I think let's cheers off to this. Thank you for joining us on our first episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
It's cheaper than therapy.
Yep.